This last day weapon overview is a little bit different from my normal ones because we're taking a look at one of the rarer weapons in the game, the Slasher. This weapon originally came out in Season 7. Since then it's been obtainable through a few in-game packs available on the store, but you could have also earned it through a reputation system in a previous season. Now, because this weapon has a very limited availability, it is not currently modifiable or craftable, but let's take a look at it nonetheless because it is a pretty cool weapon and we could be seeing more options on it in the future. So as you can see, after the initial hit, you deal bleed damage and you do 5 damage for each bleed over 5 ticks. Now, bleed damage is particularly useful against enemies that have a high armor stat. Not quite the big one level here, we'll avoid that, but let's take a look at the values and we'll touch more on that a bit later. So we have 45 initial damage, and with those 5 bleed damage over 5 separate ticks, we have a total of 70 damage. Now if we compare that to say a katana or a fully modded saw blade mace, you see that stacks up quite nicely compared to those two. Now, the Slasher and bleed damage in general is so useful because it can bypass a larger enemy's armor, as I mentioned earlier, so this is a great use with it when we're going against the blind one. And if you're not familiar with this battle, I'd recommend checking out my blind one guide. But one thing about the Slasher is that the bleed ticks do not stack. So after your first hit, you cannot stack the 5 ticks of bleed damage. So let's say you hit it 2 times consecutively, you would not get 10 total bleeds. It would go through the first cycle, and then you'd have to hit it again. Now, with the bleed damage, you'd think that this would be a good weapon to wall trick with, but it has a very slow attack speed, so timing is going to be really difficult. And as you can see against this floater bloater, I did take a bit of damage, so it's not quite the best wall trick weapon for sure. I'd recommend using this weapon in the most optimal way by just hitting 1 hit on a big enemy, letting the total bleed ticks burn out, and then finishing them off with a normal weapon or reapplying the bleed damage if the enemy has a lot of HP. Going forward, it would be great if we were able to craft this weapon and if we got some modifications for it. However, right now it is really rare and it is just not quite obtainable enough to really put a lot of time into thinking that much about it. If there are any other rare weapons in Last Day on Earth that you'd like to see weapon overviews on, please let me know in the comments and vote up the weapons that you'd like to see the most, and I'll probably do a demo on that. If you're interested in more informational Last Day on Earth content, I've uploaded quite a bit of Last Day informational videos, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe if you like the style or drop a like. Thanks again, and have yourself a great day.